Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Power Rankings. So today we're going to kick off Week 7 and we're going to start in Oakland. Oakland's in the same spot, 1-5 week. They get swept by Houston and they lose the series against the Diamondbacks. So they continue to struggle. They're not playing well, but I don't think expectations are very high. So they stay at 30 and I imagine this will there be most of the year. Alright, same spot as last week are the Royals. So the Royals started off promising by winning that series against the Padres, but then they get swept by the White Sox. So the Royals continue to stay at 29. The record is 14-34, so not great. So the Royals continue to struggle on this day at the bottom next to Oakland. Alright, dropping 6 spots are the Reds. So the Reds had a bad week. They only won one game. They lost the series against the Rockies, and then they got swept by the Yankees at home. So not a great week for the Reds. So they're going to continue to I want to say they're continuing to play poor, but they've had some on and off weeks where they played well. So this is one of their off weeks. And unfortunately, teams around them did better, so they do have kind of a big drop. So they dropped 6 spots, and now they're at 28. But yeah, the Reds, they're kind of hot and cold, so we'll see what they can do next week. We'll see if they bump up, but right now, I have them at 28. All right, dropping 3 spots are the Rockies. So the Rockies won the series against the Reds, as I just said, but then they got swept by the Rangers. So not a great week for the Rockies. Normally, not a week I would drop them down so much, but again, other teams around them played well. So they do drop down to 27. We'll see if they have a bounce back week next week, but as of now, they remain at the bottom. All right, dropping 1 spot are the Nationals. So they had like a weird week. They had that one game on Monday, which they won. And then they got swept by the Marlins, and then they won a series in Detroit. So not a bad week for the Nationals. And again, this is kind of like beating the dead horse here, but they got passed because other teams did better that were below them. So they do only drop 1 spot. Normally, though, that wouldn't be a week where they normally drop. But they do drop them down to 26, so that is where they are this week. All right, moving up 3 spots are the White Sox. The White Sox had a good week. They beat the Guardians, and then they swept the Royals. So all division opponents, which is what you want to see. And yeah, the White Sox are looking better. Now, their record's still 19-29, so they're 10 games below 500. So they have kind of a big climb to make, but right now the Twins kind of slowing down. You might, if you're a White Sox fan, you might see a window, but again, it's a big hill to climb. But yeah, the White Sox are playing well, so right now they're at 25. All right, dropping 4 more spots are the Cubs. The Cubs continue to struggle, so they get swept by Houston, and they lose the series against the Phillies. So the Cubs, yeah, they've had 3, I think I want to say 3 bad weeks in a row now. So we'll see if they can get it going. But yeah, not great for the Cubs right now. They continue to drop, and they're just not playing well. So right now they're at 24, and I won't be surprised if they continue to fall because they're just not playing well right now. All right, dropping 5 spots and going 1-5 on the week are the Guardians. They lost the series against the White Sox, and they get swept in New York by the Mets. So a tough week for the Guardians, especially they had a few games they could have won and they ended up losing. So that's always tough. It's a tough pill to swallow, especially I'm assuming as a player, but as a fan also. It's tough to endure, but I've been watching Minnesota sports my whole life, so I'm used to it. But anyways, bad week for the Guardians, 1-5. They do drop, like I said, 5 spots. So right now, they're at 23, and I think at some point I had them at 7, so yeah, not a good go for the Guardians. But again, last year they had like a below 500 record until like July or August, and ended up winning the division, so anything's possible. But right now the record's at 20-26, and they're at 23. All right, moving up 5 spots are the Giants. So the Giants, as I said last week, I had faith in them, and I still do. They've had these hot and cold weeks constantly, so they sweep the Phillies and they win a series against the Marlins. So now they're at 22, they have a 5-1 week. And I want to say keep it going, but they're playing my Twins today and then Tuesday and Wednesday. So, oh yeah, by the way, I'm filming this on Monday, which I usually film on Sunday, so it's a little bit weird. So I got to be able to get this done and edit it. But anyways, good week for the Giants. They bounce back like they continue to do. So if anything, if they continue this pattern, they're going to have a bad week this week and then a good week next week. So we'll see what happens. But right now the record's at 22-24, so they're kind of creeping back up to that 500 mark. Yeah, the Giants have a bounce back week. We'll see if they can keep it going. But yeah, right now they're at 22. All right, moving up 5 spots are the Marlins. They sweep the Nationals, but then they lose the series against the Giants. So you could have an argument that these two should be flip-flop because they did play each other and this team won. But yeah, I thought the Marlins, given the records of over 500 now, I have a little bit more faith in them right now than I do the Giants. And I really hope, because really if you're the Marlins or a Marlins fan, you're hoping that they just keep it at 500 till the trade deadline, and then you hope your front office makes a move. Because that's really what you need to keep. What you really need to do is just keep it at 500 until you get to the trade deadline, and then you can kind of bulk up your team a little bit. So yeah, the Marlins now over 500 again, 4 weeks. I move them up 5 spots, and now they're at 21. All right, moving up 1 spot are the Tigers. So normally a 2 and 3 week doesn't move you, but I decided to reward them. I didn't want to move these teams up too much, so I move them up 1 spot. They split with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they lose a series against the Nationals. So not a great week for the Tigers. Not a week you typically move them up. But this is kind of a weird area of the board where some teams underperformed, some teams did well. So, and then moving them up one spot. But this is probably the only time I'll ever move the Tigers up, going 2 and 3. So, anyways, a decent week. They're still playing like decently. They're better than I think expected. I think after week 1 I had them at 28, and now they're up at 20. So, Tigers are playing okay ball. Although this week could be the start of them, returning to expectations. But I don't want to be a pessimist, so hopefully they can keep it going. Right now they're at 20, like I said, so we'll see what happens next week. All right, same spot are the Padres. So the Padres lose the series against the Royals and the Red Sox this week, and they're playing way below expectations. So, yeah, tough time for the Padres. I don't move them down yet with a 2 and 4, but another 2 and 4 week, and they're getting bumped into the 20s, which is not what I ever would have expected for the Padres. I think I had them at 4 in my preseason rankings, and now they're at 19. So, tough time for the Padres. They're just not playing well, plain and simple. So we'll see if they can get it going this week. But yeah, Padres need to get it going. Right now they're at 19, and they're at risk of falling into the 20s. All right, moving up 5 spots are the Cardinals. The Cardinals are playing good. So they win a series against the Brewers, and then they take 3 of 4 against the Dodgers. So the Cardinals are looking like they're back. So the record is now only 21 and 27, which I know sounds bad, but when it was like 12 games below 500 like 2 weeks ago, it shows how much they've been bouncing back. So a 5 and 2 week moves them up again, and now they're at 18. So next week we could see them in the top half if they continue to play strong. So, but yeah, the Cardinals are playing well. This is definitely a couple weeks they desperately needed to get back on track, and I think now 6 games below 500 in May is very manageable, especially for a good team. So right now they're at 18. We'll see what they do this week. All right, same spot as last week are the Pirates. The Pirates split that series with the Tigers, and then they lose the series against Arizona, so they stay in the same spot. So the Pirates, again, you hope similar to the Marlins they can just make it to 500 at the trade deadline, although I don't know if the Pirates have been in a situation where they would want to add to their team because they're in I want to say they're like the first official year of the rebuild, but this feels like this is the first year where they're really taking this rebuild seriously, I should say, because they've been like a bad team for so long. It was almost like the Tigers were like, what are you guys really doing? It seems like this is the first year where we're starting to see what they wanted to have happen. So I wonder if they would add at the deadline, but I think, again, if you're a Pirates fan, you just want to stay around 500. You had a huge gap, and now you're only at 24 and 22, so you've kind of lost it at this point. So now you have to have you need to have a 500 week, because I guess it's the 3rd week in a row you're below 500 on your weekly record. So we'll see if they do this week, but right now they stay at 17. All right, dropping 2 spots are the Phillies. So the Phillies got swept by the Giants, but then they won a series against the Cubs. This is one of the many teams that just continue to have good weeks, bad weeks, good weeks, bad weeks, over 500, below 500. Like, off the top of my head, I would say it's Giants, Phillies, Mariners are constantly 500, and then below 500 on the week, over 500, below 500. So I don't know. Again, I don't know what to think yet. It is May, but eventually they're going to find their groove, and the groove's either going to be we're going to stink and play below 500, or we're going to get back into that playoff World Series team. They lost, but they made it to the World Series. We're going to get back to that groove. We haven't seen it yet. We've seen the good weeks, and then we've seen the bad weeks. And this was a bad week, so they moved down 2 spots, and now they're at 16. So yeah, we'll see what they do this week. Again, it's only May, but again, they've been flip-flopping so much. So we'll see what they do this week. But like I said, if patterns continue, they should have a good week. All right, same spot as last week are the Mariners. So they go 2 and 4 in the week. Again, another team that's flip-flopping between 500 and over 500 each week. So they lose a series against the Braves, and lose a series also against Boston this week. So again, not a great week for the Mariners, especially when you have really the AL West, I guess, in your goals, I guess, to try to win the division. And now it seems like it's really going to be wild card for you. But again, when you're not playing over 500 at all, it's tough to get there. So they're playing, I think, below expectations. Another mediocre week for them. Again, below 500. And like I said, now with the Giants and the Phillies, over 500, below 500, over 500. So we'll see what they can get going. But again, this is similar to the other 2 teams I talked about, the Giants and the Phillies, where you're going to get into a groove, and it's going to be, or I guess you're going to choose a path, and it's going to be, a non-playoff team or a playoff team. So we'll see which one they can get into. I think really, I guess the trade deadline's kind of the end where you have to make a decision. So we'll see if they can get there at a decent record. But right now, they have a below 500 record, and they had a below 500 weeks. So right now, they're at 15. All right, moving up 2 spots are the Angels. So they go 4 and 3 on the week. They split with the Orioles, who are playing really well, and they beat the Twins. So Good week for the Angels. They finally have like I guess a decent move up. They've been stuck at 17 for most of the year, and they got up to 16, and now they're at 14. So they're in the top half of the board officially. The Angels were playing well. The only thing I noticed when the Twins were playing them was their bullpen seems a little not great. So they have a couple good arms in there, but it seems like if I'm an Angels fan, I might be holding my breath every time we bring in a reliever because it didn't really seem like they had any big guns in there. So that's probably my only note on the Angels, where that might be the thing if you get to the trade deadline you need to add to. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, the Angels are playing well. They have an over 500 record, and yeah, they move up 2 spots at 14. All right, dropping 3 spots are my Twins. So the Twins, frustrating week because every game they lost, I believe, you can fact check this, that they were winning or tied at the 7th inning. So not a good week for the bullpen. They've had, and again, the bases loaded stats where they have bases loaded, it's ridiculously bad. Again, if you're a Twins fan, you can say, oh, the Peralta double, the strikes to Kirilloff, the not called strike to Ohtani. You can blame the umps all you want. The stats support it on the umpire scorecard, but still, I'm not someone who likes to say that because they had so many chances outside of the umps. When you let the umps put the game in their control, you're doing something wrong. Again, there's a rare occasion where it is their fault, but you're nitpicking when you're just going to sit on that. Where it's like, no, we had even the games where the umps had bad calls. We had bases loaded, like all those games. We have no extra base hits with the bases loaded. We're like 5 for 50 with 5 singles. It's just ridiculous. I don't want to say like it's on the hitting coach because I don't know in detail like what that comes down to, if they're like their approach is wrong or what, but it just seems bad that when you have bases loaded that much, you can't get things going. So they lose the series against the Dodgers and they lose the series against LA. And when you're going to LA on a road trip, you want to go 3-3. They could have gone 5-1. The only game they really lost that like I was like okay was the last game against the Angels. It was a pitching duel. Ohtani pitched well, Lopez pitched well, and the Angels ended up winning that one. But they could have swept the Dodgers and they could have won the series against the Angels, but the bullpen just could not get it done. And the hitting and clutch moments was not coming up clutch. Actually, that's not even true. They were clutch except for where the bases were loaded, which makes it just so frustrating. But anyways, they dropped 3 spots. Yeah, the Twins just frustrate me sometimes, and we'll see if they can have a bounce back week. But ugly week for Minnesota. All right, dropping 4 spots are the Brewers. So the Brewers were having a tough time as well. So they lost the series against the Cardinals and the Rays. 2 good teams on the road. So they go 2-4, but yeah, I can no longer justify having them in the top 10 because they just haven't been playing well. This is like their 2nd bad week in a row. So now they move down to 12. They drop 4 spots. So we'll see if they can have a bounce back week this week. But yeah, Brewers need to get back into that groove. Although they've had, I think it's 4 straight series now against tough opponents. So if they have an easier week this week, I haven't looked at the schedule. If they have a little bit of an easier week, we'll see if they bounce back. But right now, they're at 12. All right, moving up 2 spots are the Diamondbacks. So the Diamondbacks had a decent week. They go 4-2. They did play Oakland and Pittsburgh, so not the... Is that straight? Kind of can't tell sometimes. So they played like the strongest of opponents. The Pirates aren't playing well, and Oakland's Oakland. So, but I did move them up because other teams are playing bad, and they have a good record, 27-20 now. So I wanted to reward them. They go up to 11. So we'll see what they can do this week. But I'm fully confident that Arizona could. I think we could start considering the possibility this could easily be a wild card team if they can continue to play well. All right, dropping 5 spots. The Blue Jays. The Blue Jays had a bad week. They go 1-5, or is it 1-6? 1-6. Not good. So they get swept by Baltimore at the end of the week, but they lose 3-4 against the Yankees to start the week. I think they're all at home too, so now they get homestand for the Toronto Blue Jays, and they drop 5 spots. I can't justify keeping in the top 10 now that your record's 25-22. So that's really a fall from grace for them. Not a good week for the Blue Jays, and they were tough opponents, but when you're considered the big dog in the top row and you're playing other big dogs, you gotta win some of those games. When you go 1-6, it's hard to, I guess, take you seriously because if you can't compete against them, then people will say like you're fake. I'm not saying that because teams have bad weeks, but again, I can't justify keeping in the top 10 anymore after a week like that. So they drop down to 10. We'll see if they can have a bounce back week this week. All right, moving up 2 spots are Boston. So they had a good week, a decent week, 4-2. They won a series against the Mariners and the Padres. So normally a 4-2 week wouldn't necessarily move you up into the top 10, but Blue Jays, Brewers, and Twins all played poorly. So again, I don't want to say they got lucky, but it helps them that those teams played poorly, so they're able to now get the number 9 spots. They move up 2 spots, and now they're at 9. Right, moving up 2 spots are the Mets. So they go 5-2 in the week. They won a series against Tampa, and they won a series. That ball's stuck. And they win a series. They sweep Cleveland. So a good week for the Mets. They go 5-2. Like I said, they move up 2 spots, and now they're at 8. So the Mets, if they have another good week like this, I think if you're a Mets fan, you can kind of relax a little bit, because a 1 good week is nice, but 2 good weeks can make you be like, okay, maybe they got their groove back. They had a good week, so we'll see what they can do this week. But they looked like the Mets we were expecting, so I think I would be surprised if they had a bad week. I expect them to be here by the end of this week, so we'll see where they are next week, but I think they're going to stay around the top 8. All right, moving up 2 spots are Houston. They had a perfect week, so they swept Oakland, and they also swept the Chicago Cubs. So, again, not the strongest of opponents they had to play, so that's why they only move up 2 spots with a perfect record, but a good week for the Astros. They have Altuve back, so we'll see what happens this week when they have some stronger opponents, but Houston is looking good again, and right now they're at 7. And we'll see what they can do this week. But yeah, Houston's looking scary again. All right, moving up 1 spot are the Yankees. So they go 6-1. Some Yankees fans might disagree. They think they should be higher, which, whatever. But when you're in the top 6, even if you have a 6-1 week and everyone else plays pretty decent, you're not going to move up most likely. You would have to really impress me. Which, if you have another 6-1 week, then that could happen. But when every team has a good week and it's your first dominant week, you're not going to move up too much. So 6-1. The Yankees are looking really good. They sweep Cincinnati and they take 3 or 4 against Toronto. So like I said, Yankees fans, if you go 6-1 again and other teams go 4-2 ahead of you, you will pass them. But this is your first 6-1 week, so we'll see how next week goes. But yeah, the Yankees looking scary against right now. They're at 6. All right, moving up 1 spot are the Rangers. So they go 4-2 on the week. Not a crazy week. They lose the series against the Braves, but then they win the series against the Rockies. Actually, they swept the Rockies, so a good week for the Rangers. They move up 1 spot. I think you could argue this is the most slept-on team in baseball, them or the Orioles, but I think that was the Orioles last year. I think they're the Orioles last year with a little bit of a better record. I think they're 29-17, so Rangers look good. I will admit I was definitely sleeping on them, keeping them down here for most of the year, but now they're playing really well, and I have them up here at 5 because they're looking that good. So right now, like I said, they're at 5. We'll see what they do this week, but the Rangers, I think it's time for everyone to take them seriously. All right, same spot as last week are the Braves. So they won both their series against the Rangers, and they won the series against the Mariners. So good week for Atlanta. They dropped last week, and they're still at 4. Because again, when every team around you plays well, it's really hard to jump over them. So the Braves stay at 4. We'll see what they can do this week. But yeah, I think for now, I'll say these top 4 teams could be the teams you see most of the year. I don't know. We'll see, but these teams are playing so solid right now. It's hard to picture them slipping. And again, anything can happen. It's baseball. So right now they're at 4. We'll see what they do this week. All right, dropping 1 spot are the Dodgers. So they actually have a below 500 week, 3-4. They won that series against Minnesota, and I feel comfortable saying they got lucky in the sense that our bullpen fell apart, which I guess isn't on the Dodgers, but still, they could have been swept. They were pretty much losing almost every game, except for the first one they blew, and then they ended up winning in extras, and they never had a chance in Game 2, really. It was like 6-2, and then the third one, they also had a grand slam off Pagan, which Pagan sucks. So Dodgers, and then they lose 3 or 4 against the Cardinals. So not a great week for the Dodgers. They drop 1 spot. So yeah, I don't want to. People don't like when I say lucky because it's like I'm giving them not enough credit. But again, if you look at the stats from those games, they got bailed out a little bit. So hopefully the Dodgers have a better week this week. Again, 3-4 isn't the worst thing in the world. I didn't want to drop them down 2 spots, so we'll see if they can have a bounce back week and get over to another 500 record on a week. But yeah, the Dodgers drop 1 spot, but they're still looking good. So right now they're at 3. All right, moving at 1 spot are the Orioles. So they're 5-2 on the week. Great week for the Orioles, and now they're at 2. And I think 2 weeks ago I said enjoy it while it lasts. I'll eat those words. That was a bad take, obviously, because right now the record is 31-16, 15 games over 500. I never would have guessed that in a million years. So they split with the Angels, but then they swept Toronto. So they had some good opponents, and they showed up. So a good week for the Baltimore Orioles. So right now they're at 2, and I don't know. We'll see what happens next week because this team could end up being number 1 because the Orioles are playing that good, and the Rays, we'll talk about them next, obviously, the only team left. They had, again, another mediocre week for Rays standards, and especially for the number 1 spot standards. So the Orioles are at 2, so let's get to the Rays. So like I said, number 1 are the Rays, but they have a 3-3 week. I think last week they had a 3-4 week, and the record's 34-14. So the Orioles, I think, are 3 games behind them. So things are getting tight in the AL East between those 2 teams. And again, if the Orioles have another 5-2 week and they have a 3-4 week, I don't know. We'll have to look at it, but we could see the Rays getting dethroned finally. The Rays, they lost series against the Mets, but then they won a series against the Brewers, so they have a 3-3 week. They remain at 1, but yeah, I don't want to say they're playing bad because they're playing really well. But when you're number 1 seed or number 1 on the board, there are some standards, and again, if they have like a 2-4 week, who knows what happens? Who knows? So, anyways, this is Week 7's finalized power rankings. Let me know what you think. Let me know what do you think I got wrong. Any tips or advice on my videos. I still don't have a stand because I'm moving soon. I don't know if I want to get a setup until I have an actual like setup other than in my living room / kitchen in my apartment. So, and also next week I might try something new where I have each team's high and low on the season so far. So like for example, the Rays' high and low is 1. So like if they go down to like 8 next week, which they won't, their high on the season would be 1, their low would be 8. I want to consider that just so we get a kind of a vibe of where teams have been throughout the year because I can't remember all that. So anyways, this is Week 7's finalized power rankings, and I'll see you guys next week.